Hello and welcome back to the Chatco podcast, where I discuss media in the forms of reviews and topical-based discussions. I'm your host, Drinking Thomas Hughes, and today I'm going to be talking about a film, and its franchise overall, that has come out this past week. Obviously, by the time this episode is going out, it'll be a week since it came out, and that is Alien Romulus. Obviously, that is the seventh entry in the Alien franchise, is it? Yeah, the original four, Prometheus duology, and seventh Alien entry. I'm not talking about AVP. I'm talking about their individual entries and not their crossover entries. So it's the seventh main entry in the series, and it is very much the franchise reset that the Alien franchise needed. Because for a long time it has suffered, in a lot of people's eyes, of not being as good as its original two. Because obviously Aliens come out two back-to-back masterpieces. I mean, I rewatched Alien recently. I was like, okay, it's better than I originally fucking rated it in my mind. But none of the others ever seem to get to that point. Alien 3, nowhere near. That's, for me, the worst entry in the Alien franchise. As I say, not including crossovers. Though I do like the first AVP. But I'd still prefer to watch the second AVP over Alien 3. I do need to rewatch Alien 3 because it might be just the case of old memories need to be refreshed, and it could go either way. It could be I watch it again and it gets worse in my mind, but I have to wait and see. And obviously then that was followed by Alien Resurrection, which for me was a tad bit better. Wasn't massively better, but it was a tad bit better. Franchise stayed quiet. Prometheus and Alien Covenant came out, and they were decent enough duology that is never going to get finished. So the trilogy is over for that one. By the look of it, I can't see them actually revisiting it. It makes no sense for the fact that they never really took off, essentially, is the word I'm after here. So obviously, really, if you think about the franchise, obviously not just the Alien franchise, but the Predator franchise as well, I'm going to go to that one right here in this discussion. Both franchises had their high points, i.e. first entries. Obviously, Aliens got lucky, caught lightning in the bottle twice with its second entry, but both franchises never really managed to capture that same level again since they first came out. As Alien dished out two sequels and two prequels, and it never really captured the essence of the first two. And then Predator dished out three sequels over the course of its years, and none of them managed to capture the first film's essence. Though I do like Predators, I will say. I like the third one. That was actually pretty good, because it did pretty much feel very similar to the first, just in space. But yeah, so both never really captured their first movie's success, either box office wise or I'd assume money wise as well. And I mean, even both tried to come together, which obviously what the fans really wanted. And again, in a lot of people's eyes, it never really captured the same magic. It was never as good as people expected. And then both kind of had their franchise killers, because both at some point have kind of gone dormant. Obviously, Predator went dormant after Predator 2, because then they did the crossovers, and it wasn't until 2010 when Predators came out. And then with Aliens, it was Alien Resurrection was the last one, and then it was 2012 by the time Prometheus came out on the big screen. So both had this massive gap after their old entries in the 90s and early 2000s. Because obviously, I say both went on to have crossovers instead, and they got two out of it. So at least that's something. At least they got two. Despite the fact that they annoyingly again ended on a cliffhanger on the second one, and it went nowhere. But I say they both kind of went quiet. They then both put out newer entries, Predators and Prometheus. Prometheus obviously did well enough for them to then go, okay, Covenant a couple of years later was 2012, so 2017 was Covenant, so 5 years later? So it's a bit better than the gap between Resurrection and Prometheus. And then Predators, obviously 2010 was that one, and then it wasn't until 8 years later by the time we had the Predator. And obviously both the Predator and Alien Covenant kind of were the killers of the franchises again. They both received negative reviews, both didn't do very well at the box office, and they both kind of canned the franchise. Obviously then Disney took over Fox and had all the rights and was like, okay, let's do this again. So they went the approach of a straight to streaming Predator movie with Prey, and they're definitely going to be kicking themselves in the teeth on that, because that itself was a franchise reset that franchise needed, because it was the best rated one since the original. Obviously, the viewership on it was ridiculous, and they definitely looked at it afterwards, being like, "Well, we should have put that in cinema. We would have got a fucking load of money off that." But I can understand pretty why they didn't, because especially after the Predators like disastrous box office haul, they could probably look at it and go, "Well, do we take a risk on this franchise or not?" And I feel like it is the right step to not put it back in cinema, take the risk of, okay, it's put on streaming. If it does bad, then that's it. We'll ignore this franchise and look elsewhere, because we do have a lot of other properties now. But it did well. It's got a sequel on the way, and it was the perfect rebrand for this pretty much hit or miss franchise. So Alien needed that as well, and obviously we've got the Alien TV show coming out next year, I believe it is. I'm hoping that is as good. But obviously until then, we've got Alien Romulus, directed by Fede Alvarez, who did Don't Breathe, Evil Dead. That's all he did. He's done he's done one or two other things, I think, but they're the kind of ones that he's more well known for, and that gave him the reins for this. And he's knocked out the park, really, because Alien Romulus is definitely the franchise reset. It's a back to basic approach for the Alien franchise. It ignores the convolutedness that Prometheus and Alien Covenant added to the universe, because obviously since that was a prequel, it had to add a lot of lore, and it was a lot of hit or miss lore. As obviously a miss in the sense that there was no xenomorphs really until the end of Covenant, and even then it was just like this end sequence. And I feel like a lot of people threw out those films, obviously not just that one, but even Prometheus, were expecting xenomorphs, and it just never happened till pretty much the end of, the final act of Covenant. Whereas this, straight away, is like, okay, set in between the first and second movie. So I do recommend watching the first one, because it is a character reference that if you haven't watched the first one, you won't understand. You don't have to watch Aliens, that's fine. Despite the fact Disney Plus has it at the top of the screen saying Alien Romulus in cinemas, catch up with Aliens. Makes no sense, because this movie, you don't need to watch Aliens. You only have to know, really, Alien. Yes, I will say there's references to Prometheus and Covenant, particularly Prometheus, but you don't really need to watch them. You can kind of just go with it. Just ignore it. Obviously, if you've seen it, you're great, and you'll know the reference. I got the reference because I've seen them, but if you haven't seen them, then it's not really a killer. It's just what it is. And this film itself is just chock full of references and homage to the rest of the Alien franchise. I mean, I said to Haley when watching it, you got stuff from each Alien entry, really. Obviously, I'm not going to spoil it, but obviously, there's stuff from each Alien entry. So you got stuff, obviously, you got the feel of the first Alien, you got the feel of the second one. There's a little kind of reference to Alien 3. There's a big reference to Alien Resurrection. Obviously, it's the final act of this movie. Obviously, it says part of Prometheus involved here. Covenant technically connects to Prometheus, so you can kind of say, yeah, there's kind of reference there. And as I say, there's a lot chocked into this movie, and it's a very back to basic approach for the Alien franchise. Yes, its ending goes very, as I say, Alien Resurrection with some of its stuff, but it's still a back to basic approach. You know, a bunch of people crash, obviously, get stranded on this ship. When they're there's an alien aboard. Simple as that. Back to basic approach. And obviously then you throw in obviously stuff, obviously the more action focused of Aliens. So it's literally got, early in the movie it's very Alien, and then later in the movie it goes very more Aliens, which is I'm okay with. That's fine by me. It feels like you're taking inspiration from both, and I'm okay with that. Because as I say, it's not convoluted in a lot of lore. It's not trying to push new lore onto you. It's the lore that's already established, really. And as I say, it's not as if it's confusing. It's very easy to follow. And on top of that, the fact they go practical with this movie, that for me gets even more marks because the practicalness is so good. I mean, the fact they actually built the alien suit. I mean, they got an animatronic alien they built for this. They built the animatronic face huggers, which they used at Comic-Con, which is really cool marketing. They just do a lot more practical. This, yes, there is digital. There's a massive sequence that's just digital, which, you know, makes sense why it'd be digital. Though it's very difficult to do that practically. I mean, it'd be cool if they did. Not this movie would get a 10 out of 10 if it did, but it's understandable why they didn't. But as I say, the rest of this movie is practically near enough just all practically done. I mean, that's one thing that they constantly focused on in a lot of the press and all that beforehand. If you notice, obviously the one trailer they put out, which wasn't a proper trailer, it had a lot of basically behind the scenes stuff early on, and they fully focused on the fact that the director wanted more practical over digital, and I respect the hell out of that, because if it's done right, if there's enough budget in practical will always look better than digital. If it's done right. If it's done wrong, then it would look trash. But this does it right, and it looks absolutely perfect. It looks stunning. As I said, the score for this movie is really good. It adds to the atmosphere. I mean, I could have done about this weird clicking sound in the cinema I had. It was I think one of the fans, obviously, and the aircon was a bit fucked, so it just kept clicking every time it went completely silent in the movie, which was annoying. But it went a bit quieter towards the end of the film, so it was fine. It wasn't too pissing me off. It was, but it wasn't too extreme. But yeah, the score for this movie is really good. I think the acting's great in it as well. There's only one character that I didn't like, because he just pissed me off with his voice. Mainly just how he was acting. There's nothing wrong with the actor, it's more just the way they portrayed the character, and so good. They didn't they weren't in the entirety of the movie. Spoiler there, but not a massive spoiler. But other than that, it pretty much nails everything I'd want from an Alien movie. I don't think it's as good as Prey. I said that as soon as I walked out. I went, if you look at the fact that it's another franchise reset, similar to Predator's franchise reset of Prey, I don't think this is as high as that. That for me is outstanding, because it's different. It's a basic approach, but it's different. Again, it's not convoluted with stupid laws or anything. It's a run-of-the-mill Predator movie, but it just feels so different to anything the rest of the franchise, whereas this doesn't. But that's not a bad thing. The fact that it feels like the rest of them isn't a bad thing, because it makes it very familiar. So yeah, as I say, I'm not going to nag on that too much, but as I say, I would not put it at the same bar as Prey, but it's still the best Alien entry we've had in a long time. Definitely the best since Aliens. So for me, it's literally the third best Alien movie out there. As I said, the whole franchise really. The first two I absolutely love. They're outstanding movies. Third one, at the moment, without rewatching it, it was like a mid-card, below average movie. Resurrection was a mid-card, just slightly above average movie, and then Prometheus and Covenant were decently entertaining entries, but I understand why they got hate. I feel like the only reason I love it, I actually give a bit more credit for Prometheus is the fact that was one of the first 15 movies I got to see in cinema, despite the fact at the time I was 14. I mean, I somehow managed to sneak in on that one. So that was the first one I ever got to see in cinema. So I feel like that's why I kind of have a bit more love for that movie than I really should. But I will say that they always seem to get, with the Alien films, a decent cast of characters. So they're always decently acted, despite flaws in what they've got to work with. And then so this is no different. The only one I really recognise was I don't remember the actress's name. I just remember the fact that she played the live action Dora, and she's also playing Hawkgirl in Superman next year. and she's also in the second series of Last of Us that comes out next year. She's in like a lot of shit lately. She's the only one I really know. Obviously, plus the reference to an old character. That's the only two really I have acknowledgement of who the fuck they are. Obviously, yeah, I might look if I looked up the cast, I might go, okay, I saw them as else, but I don't recognise them too much in this. But that's not something that's gonna, I'm not gonna diss a movie for going, oh, I don't know who that is. I don't know who they are. I'm not gonna do that. What's the point? Up and coming people. That's what they're there for. Is so that they can get recognised from a role. And in this case, they're probably going to get recognised for being in a really good alien movie. That is full of, I wouldn't say chock full of gore, but it's got a decent level of alien gore. So obviously, the Alien franchise has never been gory, but it's got basically the same level as any really have. Obviously, then you've got as I said, the atmosphere, how to set up everything, the tension, and all that is really well done. The practicals are really well done. The score is really well done. The cinematography is really good in this movie. It does everything basically right. As I say, I'm not going to be like it's a 10 out of 10 movie because it's not. I wouldn't give it that. I wouldn't say it's as good as Alien or Aliens, but I'd say it's definitely better than anything this franchise has put out since those two entries. I'm trying to think what else to really say about this. I really can't think of anything else to say that I really want to say. It's the only problem about having someone sitting next to me to also give their opinion. I run out of steam very quickly, and that is very much what I've done here. I think I've run out of steam. I'll definitely check it out. I'll definitely recommend checking it out if you haven't already. I'll just get to a rating and then I'll try and figure out how to drag this out an extra 5 minutes. So rating wise, so obviously the last of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 movies, I brought in that new rating system where I went straight to the point when I was like 0 point, straight to either, say for example, like a 5 or a 5.5 or a 6, so you had the choice there. But obviously I recently did Dragon Prince with Alex, where we stuck to the rating system we were using for that, which was that sort of rating system. So, but obviously you only had up to 5. We did it out of 5 for that, and I know he pointed out because it kind of feels a bit like you have to be. I think he wanted to he'd prefer to actually have it a bit more to the point, like I have been doing for a long time with this show, and that is understandable. And I've sat there and thought about it, and I was like, he kind of is right because it's the kind of point of, say you give a movie a 7.5, but in your mind it's like a 7.8. You have to go, it's a high 7. It's 7.5, but it's a high 1. It's pushing 8, but not there. It's just like, okay, I feel like it's a shame that you aren't able to go straight to the point that you're after. So I feel like I'm gonna go back to my old. I know I've only done 1, 2, 3 videos with this new rating, but I feel like I'm just gonna go back to the old one, just for fucking easiness sake. Plus, I'm jotting down. I'm starting to go through all my ratings I've done so far to jot them down, so I actually, at least, if I give a rating, I know where my comparison can be. And for this, my comparison was looking at Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, because obviously that one I gave a 9.7. And I was like, for me, I prefer this ever so slightly to it. Like, it's not like massively different, obviously, in rating wise, but I do prefer it to that. And I was looking, I was like, it feels weird me going, this is a 9.5, but it's like a high 9.5, and it's better than this one. It just saves so much fucking aggro, mentally thinking. So as I say, I think I'm happy to stick with the ratings I've give so far with this new rating system. I think I'm happy to stick with like the ratings I've done. So I'm gonna go. As I say, I'm gonna go back to my just the basic rating system rather than having to try and just round it to the points. So for that, I would give Alien Romulus, I'm just looking at my notes here, a 9.8 out of 10. I'm going to go just that one bit over Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes. And I think the reason why I'm going to go I'm gonna give it a better rating to that. Obviously, I've been in love with the Alien franchise for a long ass time. It's definitely like one of my favorite like horror franchises, despite the fact that there was two entries that are kind of the weaker ones. I still really like it. I still really like the idea. Whereas Planet of the Apes, uh, really my introduction was the Mark Wahlberg one, which isn't a good sign. But as I say, I've enjoyed this new trilogy, well, quadrilogy now, and they've been great. The first one was a decent one, but then they've improved drastically on the later ones. Um, but as I say, I think my love for the Alien franchise and Alien and Aliens does tip this over it. Plus, the fact it's all practically done is definitely going to help it. And I think as well the runtime just clocks in at, I think it's just under 2 hours, whereas Planet of the Apes was like 2.5 hours or something like that. It was a long one, so I feel like that is going to help this a bit more because it doesn't feel drawn out. It feels like when it starts going down, it goes down, and it's very fast paced there, and it doesn't really require the slowdown too much. Only really just to explain a few things. So I feel like that is what's going to help me tip this ever so slightly over Alien Kingdom, over Planet of the Apes. One thing obviously when I was doing that, obviously when I was trying to decide the rating, it was so difficult for me because I was like, okay, do I tip it over Planet of the Apes? And I was like, yeah, I think I'll just go over it. And then obviously it was like, do I go any higher up on my list in terms of like my end of the year list that I'll do at some point in my top 10. And I was like, do I go any higher? And then just right above it was the film Abigail. I was like, oh, I did like that. And it was just a debate of what do I do here? And at the moment, it just sits below Abigail. I just tip that ever so slightly over it. Just because that film just caught me off guard how like really good it was. But yeah, I feel like a 9.8 is a decent place for this to sit. I definitely can't wait to check it out when it comes out, obviously on Blu-ray. I'm definitely going to pick it up to check it out. Oh, well, technically speaking, it should be on Disney Plus at some point, so I'll be able to check it out. Even if I don't pick it up on Blu-ray, I've still got the Disney Plus option, and I'm definitely now looking forward even more to this TV adaptation they're doing. Obviously, the one from the creator of the showrunner of Legion. I see Noah Hawley, is it Hawley, something like that. I know he's doing the TV series, which is a completely different part of the timeline. I know it's set like early, but I don't know if it's set. I'm guessing it's set after Prometheus. I don't know. It's convoluted. The timelines are getting very confusing at this point. This was an easy one to do for the fact it's just like, okay, it's after Alien, but before Aliens. Okay, simple. That's all you need to know. But yeah, it feels like a good place to place it for now. As a rewatch could make me go higher, could make me go lower. I don't think it'll make me go lower. I definitely think there's a good chance of it going higher. But I don't think it'll go to like a 10. I still don't think it's as good as Prey, but I think it's very close. As I'm looking forward to the TV show, I'm hoping now we get another entry. And it would be nice to have Fede Alvarez involved again, because he's a good director and he suited this movie perfectly. I know he spoke about it like the red carpet thing on about. Someone asked him about AVP, like he'd have a go at doing that, and he was like, "Well, I'd do it if I could co-direct it with the guy who made Prey, Dan. I never know how to pronounce his last name, Treyenberg or something like that. Off the top of my head, that's his last name. I know he's like, I'd like to do it like that because he wants to take the Dusk Till Dawn approach of Tarantino and Roberto Rodriguez. He does half, and I was like, that'd be pretty cool. Like two people that know their own respective franchise, obviously entries, and go, okay, let's combine these two together, rather than just get like someone who is just new. Obviously that also works. I mean, look at fucking the Godzilla and Kong franchise. They got two different directors on Godzilla. They had a different director for Kong, and they brought a new director in for the crossover entries, and they worked. So I definitely would. I'd love to see another attempt at AVP. I know there's that anime one that Disney is sitting on that they will not release. But I'd love to see them taking a crack at that. That obviously crossovers. If the Alien franchise and Predator franchise still does really well solo, I'd definitely like to see them go, okay, let's try and see what happens if we smash them together again. Because as I say, if they're done right, they'll be as good as these two. So as I say, I'm looking forward to both the Alien sequel if they do make it. Which, I mean, the early predictions for the box office was, I think it's like 100 million weekend. I'll know, and you'll know by the time this episode goes out if it reached that. I know last time I saw it was like 40 million, so that's pretty good for the starting point. So I mean, kind of were right with the fact that this one hopefully should make its money. It definitely made its reviews, so we were right on that one. We're definitely wrong on the other ones. But yeah, so looking forward to if they do a second one to this. Looking forward to the TV show. Looking forward to the second Prey movie. And yeah, obviously, if you've seen Alien Romulus, put your thoughts in the comments below. If you liked it, if you didn't like it, tell me what you liked about it. Tell me what you didn't like. Tell me what you'd like to see in a sequel. And if you'd be interested if they did AVP again. Obviously, also put in the comments below if you'd be interested in me covering each entry of the franchise. Obviously, the Alien franchise. And I'll be also willing to the Predator franchise and the two crossovers. So put in the comments below if you'd like me to talk about them, obviously individually. And obviously, you can check out the podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcast, Audible, etc., etc. Next week, I will actually announce what I'm doing next week. I'll be covering the Assassin's Creed 3 Remastered game, since I did say once I finished it, I'd cover it. And I believe it's either, by this point this episode goes out, Liberation is finished, or it might be the next couple of days it finishes. I'm not too sure off the top of my head on my schedule. But I know it definitely finishes before the last Friday of the month. So I'm going to be covering the whole collection. I'll be talking about Assassin's Creed 3, the DLC and Liberation, and just the game, obviously the combination of the games overall. So I will announce that one right now, because I know for a fact I am doing that one. I'm going to take a drink and then I'm going to just bash on with that right now. So yeah, obviously I hope you enjoyed my rambling on about Alien, and I do hope to see you next time. Goodbye.
If you like what you've seen, don't be afraid to throw us a little like and subscribe. That's always very appreciated over here. And, well, I'll see you on the next video.